The Man Who Never Aged. Some stories are buried by time, not because they are false, but because the truth is too terrifying to remember. On a stormy October night, Detective Daniel Carter received a call that would change his life forever. A history professor named Edward Collins had disappeared from his locked home in the isolated English village of Blackridge. There were no signs of forced entry, no blood, and no evidence that anyone had entered or left the house. Only one sentence was written across the dusty mirror in the living room. He came back. Daniel dismissed it as the frightened words of an old man, until he entered the professor's study. Every wall was covered with maps, newspaper clippings, and hundreds of photographs. At first they looked ordinary, but one image caught his attention. It had been taken in 1896 outside the village church. 4 men stood proudly in front of the camera. Behind them stood another man. He wore a black coat and stared directly into the lens. Daniel reached for another photograph from 1928. The same man, same face, same expression. Another photograph from 1954. Still the same. 1978, 1979, 1980. Not a single wrinkle, not one sign of aging. Someone had appeared in photographs for more than a century without changing at all. That evening, Daniel visited the only pub in Blackridge. The villagers fell silent the moment he placed the photographs on the table. An elderly woman slowly whispered, "You should leave this village before sunset tomorrow." Daniel asked, "Who is he?" The woman looked terrified. "My grandmother warned me about him when I was a little girl." "What did she say?" The woman leaned closer. "He doesn't kill people. He collects them." Before Daniel could ask another question, every light inside the pub suddenly went out. The room fell into complete darkness. People screamed, glasses shattered. Exactly 7 seconds later, the lights returned. The old woman had vanished. Her chair was empty. Her walking stick lay on the floor. Security cameras showed the same thing. 7 seconds of static, then nothing. The next morning, Daniel received an anonymous package. Inside was Edward Collins' journal. The first page read, "If you're reading this, he already knows your name." The journal described sightings of the mysterious man across more than 130 years. Every disappearance followed the same pattern. A photograph, a warning. 7 seconds of darkness. Then someone vanished forever. On the final page, Collins had circled one sentence over and over again. "Never let him know you're looking for him." Daniel looked up from the journal. Across the street, a man in a black coat stood perfectly still beneath a flickering street lamp, watching him. Daniel rushed outside. The street was empty. Only a fresh photograph lay on the pavement. His hands trembled as he picked it up. It showed Blackridge Church. The date printed beneath it was tomorrow's date. Standing beside the church was Detective Daniel Carter, looking straight into the camera. Behind him, the man in the black coat smiled. The following morning, police arrived at Daniel's hotel after he failed to answer his phone. His room was untouched. His wallet remained on the desk. His car was still parked outside. The only thing missing was Daniel himself. Months later, investigators opened Edward Collins' journal again. Between its pages, they discovered a photograph that had never been there before. It showed Professor Collins, Detective Daniel Carter, and a mysterious man. All 3 stood side by side, smiling at the camera. The date below the picture read, October 18th, 1896. No one ever explained how it was possible, but ever since then, visitors to Blackridge have reported seeing a man in a black coat standing silently near the old church. He never speaks, he never moves, he simply waits. And if you ever see him looking directly at you, don't take a photograph, because the next picture he appears in will be yours. Daniel couldn't stop staring at the photograph. His own face looked pale, almost lifeless, while the man in the black coat stood behind him with the same emotionless smile. The date printed below the image was impossible. Tomorrow. His first instinct was to destroy the photograph. He threw it into the fireplace inside the hotel lobby and watched the flames swallow it. For a moment he felt relieved. Then his phone vibrated. An unknown number had sent him a single image. It was the same photograph, untouched, no burn marks, no damage. A second message arrived. Fire cannot erase the truth. Daniel immediately traced the number. There was no registered owner, no signal. According to the phone company, The message had never been sent. That night, he returned to Professor Collins's abandoned house, convinced there had to be something everyone else had missed. While searching the study, he noticed scratches beneath the wooden floor. After moving the heavy bookshelf aside, he discovered a hidden trapdoor. Cold air rushed upward. With nothing but a flashlight and his revolver, Daniel climbed down. The tunnel beneath the house stretched farther than he expected. Its stone walls were covered with faded symbols and hundreds of names carved into the rock. Some names dated back to the 1800s. Others were recent. One name stopped him cold. Edward Collins. Beneath it, someone had carved another name. Daniel Carter. The letters looked fresh, as if they had been carved only hours earlier. A sudden sound echoed through the tunnel. Footsteps, slow, steady, getting closer. Daniel switched off his flashlight and pressed himself against the wall. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then a calm voice whispered through the darkness. "You shouldn't have come." Daniel spun around, aiming his revolver. No one was there. His breathing became heavier. Again the voice spoke. "You've been looking for me." The flashlight flickered back to life on its own. At the far end of the tunnel stood the man in the black coat, perfectly still. His face showed no anger, no happiness, only patience. Daniel fired. The gunshot echoed through the tunnel. The bullet struck the wall behind the stranger. He hadn't moved. He simply wasn't there anymore. A cold hand suddenly rested on Daniel's shoulder. He turned instantly. Nothing, only darkness. His flashlight died for exactly 7 seconds. When the light returned, the tunnel had changed. The carved names were gone. The walls looked newer, fresh, as though time itself had moved backward. Daniel climbed out as fast as he could. Outside, the village looked different. The cars had vanished. Streetlights were gone. Horse-drawn carriages rolled through the streets. People walked past him wearing clothes from another century. A newspaper boy shouted the morning headlines. Daniel grabbed one from his hands. His heart nearly stopped. The date read October 18th, 1896. He looked toward the church. Standing near its entrance was the man in the black coat, waiting, as if he had known Daniel would arrive. The stranger raised one hand and slowly pointed toward the old church bell. It rang once, then twice, then a third time. Every person in the village suddenly froze. No one blinked, no one breathed. Only Daniel remained able to move. The stranger smiled for the first time. "Now," he said softly, "you finally understand why no one ever leaves Blackridge." And behind Daniel, hundreds of silent footsteps began moving toward him. Daniel's heartbeat thundered inside his chest. The sound of hundreds of footsteps grew louder, closer, closer. Yet when he turned around, there was no one there. Only an empty Victorian street covered in thick white fog. The silence was worse than any scream. A cold wind swept through the village, carrying the distant sound of children laughing. Daniel slowly followed the sound. It led him toward the old church cemetery. Rows of ancient gravestones stretched into the darkness. Most were cracked. Some had names worn away by time, but one grave looked new. Too new. Its soil was still fresh. A wooden cross stood above it. Daniel brushed away the mud. His blood froze. The name carved into the wood read, Detective Daniel Carter. Below his name was today's date. His hands trembled. "This isn't real," he whispered. Behind him, someone answered. "It hasn't happened yet." Daniel spun around. The mysterious man stood only a few feet away. For the first time, Daniel saw his face clearly. He looked no older than 30. His pale grey eyes showed neither kindness nor hatred, only endless patience. "What are you?" Daniel demanded. The stranger smiled. "I've been called many things. A ghost, a curse, a demon. But none of those are true." "Then tell me your name." The man looked toward the church bell. "My name no longer matters. The only thing that matters is the choice you're about to make." The church bell rang once. The entire village shook. Doors burst open by themselves. Every frozen villager slowly turned their heads toward Daniel. at the exact same moment. Their eyes were completely black. Not a single one blinked. They simply stared, watching, waiting. Daniel backed away. The stranger stepped closer. "I don't choose who comes here. The village does." Before Daniel could react, every villager began walking toward him, not running, not speaking, just walking. Hundreds of slow footsteps echoed through the streets. Daniel sprinted through the fog. He crossed narrow alleys, abandoned houses, and empty market squares. No matter where he ran, the church bell never stopped ringing. Finally, he reached the village bridge. Beyond it, modern Blackridge could be seen. Cars, streetlights, electric wires, safety. Daniel smiled with relief and ran toward it. Just as he stepped onto the bridge, everything vanished. The modern world disappeared like smoke. The bridge collapsed into darkness. He was standing exactly where he had started, in front of the old church. The mysterious man was waiting. "You cannot leave," he said calmly. "Not until someone else takes your place." Daniel stared at him in disbelief. "What do you mean?" The stranger reached into his coat and slowly pulled out an old leather-bound photo album. He opened the first page. Inside were hundreds of photographs, every missing person from Blackridge, every face frozen in time, Professor Edward Collins, the old woman from the pub, children, travelers, police officers, all smiling beside the same mysterious man. Then Daniel turned the final page. It was empty, except for one line written beneath the blank space. "Reserved for the next visitor." The stranger closed the album. "You still have time," he whispered, "but not much." Far away, Daniel heard the sound of a car engine. Someone new had entered Blackridge.